We have the ultimate wizard in terms of attack and defense. We have some Dinosaurs, some Invoked, haven't heard that being said in a while, and some other goodies for you today as well. Hey, 34% of you that have not smashed the living crap out of that subscribe button, smash it so we can climb up. You guessed it, the 100K ladder. I've been loving that intro. It has been so nice. So the first list we're looking at here is Dark Magician. But you know what? We're only playing 2 Dark Magicians. I actually kind of think that this is kind of starting to turn into like the Blue Eyes thing, where you cut back an alternative all the way back to 1, because multiple copies can end up being a brick. And I have kind of noticed that, like, as competitive as you try to make some of these decks, cutting back on some of the variables will give you room to really flush things out. I think that that's really important at the end of the day. So we have 1 Apprentice Illusion Magician Girl, triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, 1 Dark Magician Girl with triple copies of Ghost Bell and the Haunted Mansion. Then, of course, we still have triple copies of Magician's Rod. This card's still pretty good. We have triple copies of Magician Souls with 1 Timaeus, the United Dragon. Then we got 1 Dark Magician with 1 Dark Magician, alternate arts. We have 2 copies of Illusion of Chaos. We have 1 Saravis, 1 Called by the Grave. We have 2 copies of Dark Magician, or Dark Magical Circle. We have 1 Harpy's Feather Duster with 1 Magician's Salvation. Triple copies of Preparation of Rites. We have 1 copy of Secret Village. We have 1 Secrets of Dark Magic. Triple copies of Soul Servant with 1 Terraforming. We have 1 Upstart Goblin. And we have 2 Eternal Soul. And triple copies of Infinite Permanence. Down the extra deck, you got 1 Selene, 1 Avermax, 1 Linkaribo with 1 Unicorn, 1 Phoenix with 1 Imduk. We have 1 IP with 1 Dahark, 1 Big Eye. We have 1 Norito with 1 Ebon. And then we have 1 Zeus, 1 The Dark Magicians, 1 Dark Dragoon, and 1 copy of the Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. And then we have triple copies of Lancia, triple copies of Droll and Lockbird, triple copies of Hadoken, triple copies of Dimensional Barrier, triple copies of Evenly Matched here, wrapping up kind of a very interesting take on Dark Magician. Saravis being included in here is very, very nice. Next up here, we have Dinosaurs. I will say that getting top 16 in a regional with this deck feels a little bit harder than it formerly was. It is good to see that Dinosaurs are still functioning out here, especially like after the loss of Mystic Mine, where pretty much a lot of us agreed that Mystic Mine was like the thing that you were kind of forced to play in order to get this deck to work. And kind of after you've removed that piece from the equation here and you step back and you're like, all right, so this is kind of like the aftermath that we've been forced to go into. And you know what? It's pretty standardized, honestly. So we have 2 copies of the Animador Archosaur, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring, triple copies of Baby Cerosaurus with triple copies of Didi Craw. We have 1 Pankratops with 1 Doggoron, 2 copies of Effect Veiler with 1 Giant Rex. We have 1 Misk. We have 1 Overtex Skoltos, 1 Pterodon with 1 Scrap Chimera, 2 copies of Scraptor. Got triple copies of the Oviraptor with 2 Ultimate Conductors. We have 1 Called by the Grave with 2 Crossout Designators, 2 Dark Rulers, 2 copies of Double Evolution Pill with 1 Foolish Barrel. We have triple copies of Fossil Dig. We have 1 Lost World, 1 1-for-1, 2 Pot of Prosperity, and triple copies of Infinite Permanence. And then we got 1 Unroll Goddess, 1 Secure Gardener, 1 Scrap Wyvern with 1 Lingaribo. We have 1 Nightmare Unicorn with 1 Nightmare Phoenix. We have 1 Dahark with 1 Appa, 1 Access Machine. We have 1 Baguski with 1 Logia, 2 Dolkas, 1 Abyssdweller, 1 Borrowed Savage. And then we got triple Droll and Lockbird, a Feather Duster, triple Silent Graveyard, 2 Twin Twisters, triple Anti-Scam, and triple copies of Evenly Matched here. Wrapping up, once again, kind of a pretty straightforward approach to this deck, but I mean, you don't get a lot of, once again, like, your wiggle room has to kind of be dedicated to like Dark Rollers and things like this. So I guess it makes sense for this to work. Next up is some Invoke shenanigans. Tell me, when was the last time we took our time capsule back to seeing this deck function? I'll give you an answer. It has been so long since I have seen Invoked actually get the chance to do something. I'm actually a little bit dumbfounded by this. It took this long for this deck to get the chance to do something, especially with like Fallen of Albaz. I mean, they're both like fusion-based decks. This just took way longer than it really should have, I feel like. So we have triple copies of Crowley. We have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. We We have 2 copies of the Crow Machine. We have triple copies of Ecclesia with 1 Fleur-de-Lis and 1 Maximus. It's got 2 copies of Droll and Lockbird with 2 copies of Effect Veiler. Then we got 2 Fallen of Albaz, 2 Space Rocks, triple copies of Brand of Fusion. We have 1 Called by the Grave with 2 Cosmic Cyclone. We have 2 Invocations, triple Magical Meltdown. We have triple copies of Nidir Servant with 1 Terraforming. We got 1 Punishment with triple Imperm, and 1 copy of the Schism. Down in the next check, we got the 1 Skirgardna, the 1 Almirage with the 1 Soldier of Chaos. We have 1 Titaniclad with 1 Mirror Jade. We have 1 Lubellion with 1 Purgatrio. Then, of course, we have 1 Makaba with 1 Ogoides, 1 Tuanitis, 1 Winda, 1 Construct, 1 Apclone, and 1 copy of Albion. And side deck wise here we have 1 DD Crow, 1 Droll and Lockbird with 1 Ariel, okay, 1 Space Rock, 1 Shaddoll Dragon. We have 1 Cosmic Cyclone with triple Dark Row no more, triple copies of Shaddoll Fusion, and we have triple copies of Evenly Matched here. Once again, wrapping up another interesting take. I mean, this made top 16 out of its regional. I think that's pretty impressive. Basically, it did qualify for an invite, so for whatever it is nice to see, you know, Invocation and friends getting the chance to definitely take back off here. Oh boy, it's just not a day without a Sky Striker player entering into the room. Now, I think the most interesting thing about this list was we're back on Fusion Destiny. Now, Fusion Destiny I still think is a cracked-ass card. I think DP is one of the craziest cards out there, but your problem with the deck is you kind of have better cards now. I think the last big like regional list I saw was like packing in all these buy-steal cards, and you're kind of left in a situation where you kind of do have to rely on those buy-steal cards to get the job done. I mean, obviously, like things like Skullmeister and Ghostbell and Crow can supplement for that, you know, but having buy-steals does put bodies on the field, so I think it's a trade-off for. So we have 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyspring. We have triple copies of Kra. We have 1 Celestial with 1 Dasher. We have triple Ghostbell with 2 copies of Skullmeister. We have triple copies of Sky Striker Ace Ray. We have 1 Rose with 1 Called by the Grave. We also have triple Fusion Destiny with 1 Rhoda. We have 1 Area Zero with 1 Afterburners. We have 1 Hornet Drones, 2 copies of Shark Cannon. Triple copies of the Widow Anchor with 1 Multi-Roll. We have 1 Engage. Then we got triple Linkage with 1 Terraforming. 2 copies of Talents. And we got triple copies of Infinite Permanence. Down the extra deck, we got 2 copies of Zeke. Triple copies of Shizuku with 1 Kaina. Triple copies of Kagari. We got triple copies of Hayate. We also have 1 Dahark, 1 Access Machine, and 1 copy of the DPE Unfair Machine. Then we got 2 Space Rocks, triple Dark Ruler No More, 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, 2 Twin Twisters, triple Different Dimension Ground, 2 There Can Only Be One, and 2 copies of Trap Trick here. Wrapping up, honestly, the pretty easy Sky Striker approach. Honestly, I think this deck is pretty straightforward and a lot of fun. Maybe an extra Afterburners would help this deck out to a degree, because it's definitely something that we had seen a little bit more of here. And the last as we have here was, this was an OCG list. This is Herakti Turbo. I love Egyptian God decks, man. I think that these decks are some of the funnest stuff in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And it really goes to show some of the coolest ideas that you can really come up with here just to have a blast with this deck. So we have triple copies of Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. Hey man, what's your opponent going to do? Let you gain some life points. Triple copies of Guardian Slime. We have 1 copy of Herakti. Triple copies of Max C with 2 copies of Obelisk of Tormentor. We have 2 Reactor Slime. And then we have 1 Slifer and 1 Raw with his 2 balls. We have 2 copies of Ancient Chant with 2 Foolish Burial Goods. We have 1 Millennium Revelation with 1 Monster Reborn. We have triple copies of Mound of the Bound Creator. Triple copies of Soul Crossing with 1 Terraforming. Triple copies of the Breaking Ruin God. Triple copies of the True Sun God. And then we have 1 Metal Reflex Slime and 2 copies of Soul Energy Max. Down here in the extra deck, we have 1 Whim, 1 Leno with 1 Hito with 1 Area, with 1 Dahark and 1 Asa. Then we have 1 Gustav and 1 copy of Dora. We have 1 Magnifica with 1 Zeus. We have 1 Rapite, 1 copy of Trilodorg, triple copies of the Egyptian God Slime, and then we have 1 copy of Dimension Fusion Destruction. We have 2 copies of Fist of the Fate. We have 1 Harvey's Feather Duster, triple copies of Raigeki, 2 Twin Twisters with 2 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. We have 2 Self-Destruction Button and 2 copies of Trap Trick here. Wrapping up this chunk of interesting decks. So what do you guys think about these goodies? Please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here later in the day, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.